Turtles fever rolls on and on and on and on, and it's not going to stop, it seems, so buckle in. And today we are taking a look at the first of the recent, well, sort of recent, set of 3 loot crates from NECA. So this is the figure that comes in the first loot crate, and we're not going to talk about the whole crate. We're just gonna do what really matters here. Although the shirt was pretty cool. We've got the Shredder. So this is the first appearance comic figure, and we've gotten this guy before in a Comic-Con exclusive set years ago, and I've got him. We'll do a comparison. But this is a way for folks who don't have that figure to get one, and also for folks who do have it to get a different colorway. So we've got him here also in some pretty snazzy packaging. If we end up seeing more comic stuff, I'm hopeful it's going to look like this, because this is really, really nice, honestly. It's very striking. It's very clean and crisp and very much to the point. So you've got him here in a box that's really similar in size to the single pack movie figures. And you've got him there in the window. You've got the comic style logo on the bottom. It's all done up in a lot of foil for the silver. You've got the logo that runs down the side. The other side has a shot of Shredder from the comic. And then the back of the box has got the actual product images for this guy, showcasing kind of what he can do, how he moves around, stuff like that. So I really like this box. I mean, we're going to pull him out, but I do like the presentation here. This might be one of my favorite NECA boxes for Turtles in quite some time, honestly. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, our Loot Crate exclusive first appearance Mirage Shredder. So this guy is, I mean, he's definitely interesting because of the color scheme we've got going on here, not to mention the fact that this is a way for folks to get back into the comic subline for Turtles. But then, of course, this is very much a repaint figure because, again, this guy did come out years ago in whatever Comic-Con set that was, and it is a still pretty cool figure, don't get me wrong, but for a lot of folks, this may not be a new figure in that regard. Still, I'm pretty happy to revisit this guy, and I'm very hopeful that this leads us to get more comic stuff. And I know it's sort of been teased here and there or hinted at, so I'm hoping that this is what that means. So let's get started, take a look, see how this guy moves around. If you are familiar with some of these older NECA Turtles, you are going to know exactly what's going on here, especially, again, if you've already got this guy. There are no surprises there. So the head can look up. He can look down pretty good. You've got tilt side to side, and then of course you've got full rotation. The arms can go out at the shoulders. They go out about that far. They really are limited, about that far, almost 90-ish. And I will say now, I had to heat up a lot of this figure to get him to move. Shoulders, the elbows, the wrists, the feet, I believe. I can't really remember, but there were a lot of stuck joints on this guy. They do rotate all the way around. You've got a bicep swivel. We've got double jointed elbows there. You've got hinges, lateral hinges, and rotation at the wrist. We've got a waist twist here. He does not have any torso cut. He does not have any kind of crunch. So there is no hinging. There is no movement of any kind at the torso except for the waist swivel. Legs go out. You can get him to do the Shredder splits, basically. They kick forward. They kick backwards a good bit. You do have a thigh cut up there. We've got double jointed knees. And then you've got a boot cut, and then you've got a ball peg at the ankle, which affords a little bit of hinge forward and backward, more forward than back, and then there's a little kick side to side. You can also rotate at the ankle proper, and then you've got your toe articulation as well. So he is decently articulated. He is definitely kind of a product of the time at which this figure came out. There have been a lot of advancements when it comes to the Turtles line for a number of different sublines. They all have their own little quirks about them, but this guy is very much par for the course when it comes to what we expected to see with this line at the time it was quote-unquote new. So he does move pretty well, but I would like to see some changes going forward if he were kind of the way to get us started back into the comics line. Specifically something at the torso, and then I'd love to get away from ball pegs at the ankles because they really don't do a great deal for him, and just, maybe a hinge down there with some legit rocker action. Now, as far as the aesthetics go, this is a familiar thing. This is undoubtedly a Shredder. I mean, you can't really get too far away from that. It's very obvious right out of the gate. This is Shredder. But of course, this is meant to be a very specific thing in like kind of the first appearance of Shredder. So you've got a very nighttime looking thing. So he's cloaked in shadow. You've got a lot of shading all over the figure. I mean, everything is cloaked in shadow. And I do like the way it's been done here. It's very much a thing that you see in the comic book line with a lot of the heavy line work when it comes to shadow and just accentuating the lines, but it's even more accentuated here. And in some ways it kind of resembles some of the line work that you see in the cartoon line. Of course, it's ratcheted up quite a bit because you do have all these areas, like on the helmet in particular, where it's really, really shaded. So you've got all of this black work up here, especially on the top of the helmet. It's not that his helmet is black, it's that it's supposed to be shading, shadow, things like that. And I really do like this particular figure just from a color palette perspective. Black, blue, and silver. That's it. There's really nothing else on this guy, and I am very much happy with it. I think the overall paint applications are really nicely done. It does have that very hand-drawn or hand-inked look when it comes to the line work all over him. The sculpt on the figure in general is really nicely done. I mean, this is one of the Four Horsemen figures that they did way back for NECA, so you've got that Four Horsemen kind of vibe when it comes to turtles, and then it's just a cool looking figure. I'm really happy that this is kind of how they decided to go for the Loot Crate thing, giving us something that you didn't necessarily need, but something that you probably would still want anyway, because I really like this figure, and this color palette honestly might be more interesting to me than the regular one. So again, lots of blue, lots of black shading, a lot of heavy-handed black shading, but heavy-handed in a good way. You've got the softer pieces for his gauntlets and his shoulder pads. These do move, but they don't really get out of the way for articulation's sake. They just sort of are flimsy. You've got the shin guards down here as well, and then you've got smaller details like the wraps on the feet, the wrinkles on the wraps on his waist and on his hands. And then of course, you've got that helmet up there, which is very much a comic book look when it comes to the helmet. You've got just the eyes in there that are kind of cloaked in shadow with a little bit of white. That's like the one different color on this figure to bring out those eyes. But I really do love the shading on this guy, especially the helmet. That's probably my favorite area when it comes to all the black up here to look like it's being cloaked, look like it's just, a nighttime kind of display. So it is a very cool look when it comes to this figure. So very, very much something that I'm familiar with, but taken in a very different direction from that original set to make it stand out and be something familiar again, but very different from a figure that you may or may not already have. Now, as far as accessories goes, Shredder doesn't have a lot, but he has a couple things that I'm actually happy to see in this package. Granted, there are a few issues with him being able to actually utilize them. So he's got fists on him in the box, and then he does have a set of gripping hands. And this is kind of, well, I guess it's maybe one or the other. This is either the problem or the accessories are the problem. So the grip on these is just incredibly wide, and it makes holding his weapons really, really difficult. So like he's got whatever, I don't know, whatever this thing is called. So you've got the chain and kind of the weight on the end, and then you've got the staff, which has all of like the comic book kind of etching marks on it, and the metallic silver blade. So this really matches up nicely to a lot of the stuff we got in the comic Foot Soldier pack. But like when you put it in his hand, it just falls right through. And I've already gone through the process of trying to, heat it up and reshape it and cool it down, and it still isn't really doing a whole lot for me. The grip is incredibly wide and loose. Now, you can make it work posing him correctly. It'll work, but it's still kind of a nuisance right now. And then he's also got the bow and arrow, and I really do like this. Like just from a construction standpoint, there's some nice tension on the string, although I've already started to kind of loosen it a bit just playing around with it. And then the sculpt and the paint applications on it, while kind of minimal, are still really nice. The arrow is really well done. It's very, very straight. There's a lot of individual line work on the actual feathers of the arrow, and then there's a little notch at the end to lock it into the string, although I don't think it works all that well. But it's another instance where he can't really hold this all that well. I mean, he can do this, but it just sort of flops around in his hand way too much. So there's a definite issue, at least with this one, when it comes to holding his weapons. He's got two pretty solid weapons, but I'm having issues just utilizing them. And then holding arrows on a figure is always just cumbersome, and these hands don't exactly work all that well for it. So again, you can make it work. It'll be fine if you can pose them correctly, but at the same time, I've had more trouble than I wanted when it came to actually just using these weapons. And of course, here's our comparison between the original NECA Mirage Shredder and our new one. So you can see, I mean, they're the same figure, which is to be expected, but they are wildly different. And honestly, right now, I'm kind of leaning towards the new one as far as just the aesthetics and everything, because I really, really like the way this looks, especially when he's put up against that older Shredder. But you can see they are very similar in construction and overall detail. It just comes down to the color scheme, and the idea that they're trying to sell with each figure is different. So there you go. Quick comparison. They are similar, but of course, two halves of a whole, really. They aren't exactly something that should or needs to be compared figure to figure. So overall, this is a pretty solid figure, despite, of course, me having a few gripes when it comes to accessories. And it's really not the accessories in so much as it's the hands that I can't really work with them very well to get him to hold these things. He just does not want to grip onto these accessories. That said, more often than not, I never use accessories with Shredder, so it's not the biggest of deals, but at the same time, I would like to mess around with those, and they're proving to be a little bit more difficult than I would like. Otherwise, though, it's a figure that I'm really familiar with, a figure that I already liked done up in a very unique and specific color scheme, and I'm very much all for that. I do really like the way this guy looks. I'm hopeful that this leads to more stuff in a similar vein, because I'm all for more Mirage Turtle stuff. Just let me have them. We don't need any more turtle lines, really, do we? But I would very much be interested to see what they can do with this. And this is a pretty interesting way to hopefully kickstart that up again. So that's going to do it for this look at the NECA Toys Loot Crate exclusive first appearance Mirage Shredder. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.